Markets Now is brought to you by the 5-year anniversary of Brevant Seeds. Here's to 5 years of not just winning, but collecting one game-changing W after another. See all of our wins at Brevant.com/wins.
And welcome to Markets Now. I'm Michelle Roque with Scott Varilek of Kooima, Varilek, seeing a lot of red on the board this morning in grain and livestock futures. Cattle, third gap lower in the live cattle futures. Unfortunately, Scott, let's talk about what's precipitating it today, or the headline. Brazil tariffs got dropped to 40%. So talk about that, and how much do you think we have priced in already?
Yeah, and thanks for having me. And yes, seeing a lot of red and feeling a lot of red. It's got this same wild feeling that we've had for a while. And yeah, yesterday you get announcement. Yep, rolling back tariffs on Brazil. Beef is in there, and it's part of this whole mess that we've got. But there's my but that this has been in the news, been in the market, and we've been penciling this in for weeks. I think it's more than days. We've kind of known that this is probably going to happen when we've started hearing about want beef prices lower. We're going to look to Argentina. Well, we knew Brazil would be in there. So for me, it's not a shock. I don't think the market's surprised. A lot of this has been penciled in. It's just unfortunate that I think you've got a market that's been coming off of record highs. You've got a lot of money flow for sure. I mean, it is happening in this. So it's just one of the reasons that we're pushing this thing lower, in my opinion. But it's got more than just that for a story to talk about why we're really heading lower here.
Yeah, let's talk about lower cash. That's also been a factor, hasn't it?
I think that's a big part of it. I didn't really have it as high in my rankings as I thought, but we kind of had the feeling that we're not current. We've been making cattle big, and we know how to make them big. The genetics have gotten better, and weights that we used to look at, now we're feeding them a lot longer. And with your cost of gains that, at that level, and you're over $2 on cash, anywhere over $2, you're okay with giving up some of that efficiency. You're not even worried about the loss of efficiency as high as we've been on this market. So we've been making cattle big. And I think now the packer finally got us in a position where they're going to use that as leverage. They had the big inventory grab where they bought a lot of cattle for the end of November. Beginning of November, you could get bids for 3 weeks out, 4 weeks out. They were really pushing, and you could feel that inventory grab happening. And now here we sit. We have guys with big cattle. They might have passed the 240, and now we're waiting for, thought it was maybe going higher, and now you're just kind of trapped, and we just keep fighting that market. So guys are trying to clean up some cattle. We do have some discounts happening on heavy cattle from a major out there. So starting to hear that. So that should open your eyes pretty big. If you have cattle that are big, we've got to get them moved. 215 happened pretty quick, and then it was 212. I mean, we've had some much lower prices that are happening, and guys are taking it. I think that's what we're going to have to do to get out of it. And right now we've got cattle that still make some money. We still have some break evens, $2 or even under $2. These cattle will still work. So you're wanting to cash them in. I think the big question is, okay, we start crawling into December. We get through mid-December. We start looking at this yearling crop that's going to be ready. That's when our negative break evens start to show up. We're going to have 240 break evens up to 260. We kind of heard some of those prices that were happening. Then we're really going to have a challenge. How nervous are these traders going to be? Are they going to want to take the loss, or will they just keep fighting the market just like we've been doing on this way down? So not being current is not helping us with any leverage. It never gets cleaned up with the snap of the fingers. So I think it's going to be a slow grind and keep them moving, guys. I think we've got to keep selling them.
Yeah, USDA did confirm the record weights that we talked about even last week already. So that was a good catch on your part. How ugly do the charts look now, Scott, especially after a third gap lower opening in live cattle, or is there exhaustion finally in the selling?
Yeah, you can imagine how they look. Pretty rough. It's been a elevator down kind of move here. And so, yeah, we've got our third gap lower on these charts and the fed cattle and on the feeders, and that can be called an exhaustion gap if you're reaching for straws and wondering when we can bottom. Usually after the third gap, that's kind of telling you maybe we've broke enough, but never a guarantee, on how those charts look. So hopefully we can go back and fill this gap here today, and that would be some nice, or in the next couple of days. I'd say by Tuesday we need to get that thing filled. Otherwise we're going to start, technical guys are going to start measuring off of that. And so the short-term charts look really rough. Long-term, we've still got some long-term trend lines that are in place. So we're around the $2, $1.95 to $2 on the fats and $2.75 on the feeder. So those felt like a long ways away when we started mentioning how low those support lines are. And now we're etching pretty close when you're getting used to, well, there's quite a few feeder months that are under $300 now. We've only got 3 of them that are over it. And trying to, some of these deferred live cattle hitting around the $2 mark. So there's some, lines that we're looking at. Technically, it's not giving you a really comfortable feeling here right now, but see if we can get those gaps filled in the next couple of days. If we don't, I think that's going to be a little bit of a scary story for the technicals.
Yeah, you did have November feeders that went off the board, and now the January is at a it was at a $24 discount. Does that matter at all in this environment or not?
Yeah, there's so much confusion. I mean, usually everybody has that November feeder number kind of dialed in where the index is at, and that's been all over the board, trying to figure out where are these November feeders going to go off. And, we see this market dropping, and you see the live cattle cash dropping. So what are the cash feeders doing? I mean, that's a big question there. And there's a few people thinking I'm going to be able to jump in there and finally get some feeders bought. And surprisingly, they're hanging on, better than I expected. They're down, but probably not a big as a wreck as maybe I would have thought. So there's still some confidence out there and still some people looking to buy some feeders here. I just think it's a true testament to the true fundamental part of this is we're tight on numbers. You can't rebuild this cow herd that fast. It's going to take years to rebuild a cow herd. So the numbers are still going to be tight. We'll still be able to fall back on that. This front problem with the heavy live cattle. Let's get through that issue and get through some of these major political stories. We've gotten through some of the tariffs, and now we need to get through the Mexican border. Tons of emotions wrapped around that. Part of me just says, let's just get this dumb thing open and get it over with. Why do we have to keep talking about it? But is what it is.
Yeah, but the funds have liquidated a lot as a result of it. Now we do have a cattle on feed report out this afternoon. We're not sure if it's going to be if it's going to be current or not, I guess is the right way to put it. But is it enough, do you think, to snap everybody back to reality of just how tight these cattle supplies are?
Yeah, and that's the possibility, I wish we had more clarity on this report in itself. Like, what are we comparing to? What numbers are we looking at? So we'll have a little bit of learning. So that could be the upside, a little bit of a reminder that, okay, yeah, you've got a 97% on feed number, 92 placed. It still just kind of reminds us that, yep, numbers are tight. That kind of goes to that last point that I had made about the true fundamentals there. So that could be the hope. I just don't know with a market that's moving this fast and this much. Yeah, the funds exiting. We've got open interest really shrinking. Is it going to be enough to really be a game changer? I just highly doubt it. I think this market's kind of got its mind made up here, and we're still seeing this mass liquidation from record highs. So maybe it will be enough, but I would love to go back to, hey, let's look at the fundamentals. What are the numbers? What's the cow herd side? So that's going to be the good side of it, that we are diving back into some of that information.
Okay, let's hope some reality sets in fairly soon here. Hog market down again this morning after 2 up days. That was probably all short covering, you think?
Yeah, it still hasn't proven to break the downtrend that it's on. It tried to poke its head up just for a couple of days, and that was very short-lived. So I think it's just evident that we still have a pretty good supply in front of us right now. Yep, sitting here in the end of November, still not a good seasonal time frame. So my thought is, well, let's look out. Well, what does this supply look like? And it sounds like, feeder prices, ice cream prices, they're still really high. I'm surprised that hasn't broke yet. So the fact that that's holding on is, impressive. I'm looking at this market that's just dive bombing, and I'm thinking, okay, those prices should start really lightening up, but they're not yet. So whenever they do decide to try to hold, I guess we need to get further down the calendar before we can look at that. But supply now, maybe not as much later.
Down week in the green so far. Do you think it's been by the rumor sell the fact we've got all the China business kind of factored in here? And how concerned are you about where we closed today? Because it looks like we're testing some support areas.
Yeah, not feeling like these cranes, have a large story for a big rally. And I keep saying that. So what do I mean? I mean, we rallied quite a bit on China. We're going to get a deal. We're going to get some beans moved there. And we did. Once we finally started seeing the cargo ships show up, we've done nothing but breaking 40 cents. So a lot of buy the rumor, sell the fact there. They're still, well off their lows that they placed, both of these markets. And I don't think we need to go revisit those, nothing that low, but definitely a spot for some profit taking from the longs. And when you have an ending stock number this big in corn, it just doesn't have a chance to really, take off and move. So we're going to find a spot and we're going to grind. It's probably going to be a little bit boring talking about the grains this winter, unless we start getting some Brazilian weather. That's what we're going to really have to look at for almost like a bailout story for these markets if they want to put some on there.
Okay. Thanks as always. That is Scott Varilek with Kooima Varilek and Markets Now.
When you choose Brevant Seeds, you don't just win. You win so big, the very ground beneath your feet cries tears of joy. You win so big that second place feels like a participation trophy. You win so big, you might as well be harvesting buried treasure. Oh, sorry, just one more. When you choose Brevant Seeds, you don't just win. You hit the damn jackpot. Don't just win. Talk with your retailer or visit Brevant.com/jackpot to get started.